Impromptu live again, this time talking about fear and creativity and all the things that comes with that and how to navigate it. So I'm just going to give it a few minutes for folks to hop on and then I'll dive in. Hello. Cheers. Happy Thursday. I never really schedule these lives. It's always like I feel it in a moment and I just decide to go. So thank you for being here. I'll try to keep this short. But fear and creativity is something that is showing up for me right now in this season. As the month of June has started, I've been thinking about, okay, what are my goals? What do I want to achieve? Hey, what's up, Marcus? What do I want to achieve this month? What needs some tending to? Hey, y'all. And recent things have occurred where I am leaning into my creativity more. Most of y'all know me through like what I do at the Lion's Den. Some of y'all know me from way back that I've been dancing forever. But over the course of the 15 months, I put my own creativity on the back burner a little bit. I was focused a lot on business, focused a lot on organizing, focused a lot on systems, cleaning up what I've been doing, that the artist within me was not tended to as much. And finally, I have this opportunity. Okay, let me rephrase that. Not finally. There's always an opportunity to be creative. You don't have to wait for an opportunity to create. We literally have that freedom and liberty to do that every single day. But most oftentimes, we don't give ourselves the permission to create. So maybe you're a 9-to-5er. Maybe you're in a corporate job. Maybe you're in a job where it's not aligned at all with your creative passions. And that's okay. You don't need to be doing something creative in your day job to be considered a creative. But what I wanted to talk about today, thank you. What I wanted to talk about today was how to navigate fear in the midst of creating. And if you have any questions or comments, like feel free to drop that in the chat box. But fear has been showing up for me so much these last few weeks. So I have a deadline in June to produce something, and other people are going to see it. And that's freaking me the hell out. Typically, I create for a class. Typically, I create for a client. But it's been a really long time that I've created for myself, that I've danced just for me. Hey, y'all that are hopping on. And so today I wanted to share how I'm navigating my own fears in the midst of my creative process. And a lot of creatives are tuned in right now, so feel free to share, if this is something that resonates with you, if this is something that you experience. But it's like, how do we continue to create when fear is always there? Fear is not going anywhere. I think it is literally creativity's cousin, is for fear to be there, to let us know if the situation is safe, if we should move forward, or if we should retract. And most often, the fear is trying to push us to stop what we're doing because it's uncomfortable, it doesn't feel good, it's unknown territory, and we're afraid that we're going to fail. Point blank. Like, I think that's innately within all of us, is we're afraid to fail. We're afraid to not produce. Here, I'll tell you my fears. Here's my fear when it comes to creating right now in this season. I'm afraid that it's not going to be at the standard that it was 10 years ago, which, saying out loud, sounds so wild because it's like, Lauren, aren't you a better, improved creative than you were 10 years ago? Yeah, perhaps, right? Perhaps here I'm mentally, emotionally more mature. As far as creativity, it's hard to determine sometimes, right? If your creativity right now is way better than it was 10 years ago. Because when I look at 10 years ago, I wasn't as stressed. I didn't have big adult things that I had to deal with. I was immersed in a culture and in a container where my creativity was being nurtured and tended to on a daily basis. Versus now, as an adult, as an entrepreneur, where I get to choose how I spend my time, where I put my attention on. I don't necessarily have that container to nurture that creativity unless I decide to make it. Right? So, hi everyone that joined. If you're creative, stay tuned. I'm talking about how to navigate creativity and fear at the same time. One is just to acknowledge that the fear is never going anywhere. It's not. So instead of wasting your energy and your time on trying to get rid of this fear, how can you lean into it more? And so when I say lean into it, I simply mean acknowledging that the fear will always be present no matter what. No matter what. I think no matter how far you get in your creative endeavors or in your creative career or whatever line of the spectrum you're at within creativity, the fear is always going to be there. Why is it always there? Well, it's human nature, right? That part of our brain is trying to protect us from failure, trying to protect us from looking stupid, trying to protect us from feeling pain and discomfort and unease, which makes sense, right? That's what fear is doing, is it's sending messages to us of like, oh, Lauren, that's not safe. Oh, Lauren, this is putting you in a vulnerable space. So instead of trying to get rid of this fear, can I lean into it? Hey, Soul Service. Shout out to Soul Service DMV. Sessions every Thursday, Alexandria Waterfront. If there's no rain, I will be there. If there's no rain, it will be happening. So, leaning into the fear, inviting the fear in, and creating with the fear that's present. And I want to acknowledge that anxiety and excitement have the same physiological responses. Think about it. When the last time you were anxious, how did that feel in your body? And the last time you were hella excited, how did that feel in your body? It's the same. And so what that means, it says exactly, you have to lean into it and navigate through it. We can work on it, right? He said he's horrible at it. I think we're all a little horrible at it because we're perfectionists. At the root of it all, I think creatives really hold themselves to a high standard, which is good, but then at the same time, it can prevent us from actually doing the thing, okay? So I'm in this season where I have to create. I have to go into the studio. I have to create something from nothing, right? That's what creativity is, taking nothing and turning it into something. And that something, we never know if it's actually done. And we don't talk about that enough, is that I never know if this piece of choreography is actually complete. I can make the decision as an artist to keep changing it, to keep improving it, or I can make the decision to trust that this piece of creativity, this piece of art is perfect as it is. But being okay that everything we create with is never necessarily going to be a finished product. You can always go back and edit and revise. You can always go back and change things. But be mindful that you're not changing and editing things to the point that it's no longer creativity and it becomes perfectionism. Okay? So, fear is present because creativity is a vulnerable act. I mean, it's like walking around with all our stuff on our sleeves, all our emotions on our sleeves. It's terrifying. And I think that that's why non-identifying creative folk are always in awe of creative folks. They're always in awe of our ability to create, produce something from here, and then share it with the world. And I want for a moment to just acknowledge that all of us as creatives, that's badass. That's freaking badass that we can create nothing and turn it into something, and that something can have a physical response from someone else. It can have an emotional response from someone else. It can literally change the world. And I don't think we think about that enough, that our art, our creativity is so powerful that it has the ability to create change. So leaning into fear will always be present. Creating something from nothing is a vulnerable act. Sharing what's on our mind and our heart is a vulnerable, brave act. And you have to be mindful to not let fear drive the car. Hey, Andrew. To not let fear drive your creative process. So who's driving when you are creating? Is it your highest self? If you want to talk spiritually, is it your best self? Or is it fear that's navigating how you show up? Okay? And fear shows up in so many different ways. Fear shows up in comparison. Fear shows up in self-deprecation. I do that a lot to myself. Fear shows up in procrastination. I'm dealing with that this week. I am procrastinating so hard. I have 2 things due tomorrow. It's Thursday. And I waited until today and probably part of tomorrow to do it. But you know what? I'm not going to beat myself up for it because that doesn't help. So if you're a procrastinator like me, are you being kind to yourself as it's happening? I am fully 100% aware that I could have done some of these other things earlier this week. And then I recognize, oh, I didn't make it a priority. I could have shifted some things in my calendar, but I didn't. Okay, so here we are, the day before Friday. I have some pockets of time today, some pockets of time tomorrow. I'm not going to waste this precious time being mad at myself for procrastinating, right? But I understand that procrastination is a byproduct of the fear that is. It's a byproduct of the fear that's present for me because I'm creating something new. It's putting me in a position where I have to be vulnerable, right? And then fear also can show up as perfectionism, never believing that your work is good enough, never believing that it's finished, never believing that it's as good as it is, right? And so I spoke about this earlier, is be mindful with whatever piece of art you're working on. Sorry, I keep pointing this pen at you. That's not nice. Whatever creative piece you're working on, are you actually still creating or are you perfecting it? Are you editing and revising it so much that it's no longer a piece of work? And that's where I'm finding the balance of like, well, when will I know that this piece of choreography is good? When will I release my grip on it and trust that what I've created is exactly as it should be? So you have to have that awareness of your inner critic, of the fear in the midst of your creative process. And I don't think we talk about this enough, which is why I've been going live a lot more, is to share. What's up, Marcus? Amazing artist and musician, y'all. There's so many dope artists in here. Follow each other. I know all of y'all are creatives. That's why you're listening right now. And this resonates because the fear is real. Okay? And I'll tell you one of my biggest fears right now is what I feel sometimes is that my art, my work is not impactful enough, right? We're in such a season, an era of society where it's got to be political. It's got to say something. It's got to, be about your identity. And it's like, no, it freaking doesn't. When did we say it had to be earth-shattering art? Art is an expression of you. Art is an expression of me. I can create movement simply because my body wants to create it. I don't need to have a full-blown explanation of why I'm making this piece of work. And it can feel like you have to do that because of so many things. Social media. I mean, we look at the people that are being highlighted, right? Like the gatekeepers, right? If you're in the music industry and you're trying to get signed, right? That's a gatekeeper, right? If you're writing a book and you want to get published, the publisher is a gatekeeper. But the great thing about the era that we live in now is that we don't have to answer to the gatekeepers. We have this beautiful platform called social media where you can just post your art and you don't know what's going to happen with that art. Someone else could find it that you had no idea would. But the first thing you have to do is actually do it. and then decide if you want to share it. Not everything needs to be shared, too. I want to also make sure that I don't ever push the message like, oh, post no matter what. Yes, to a certain extent. If you're a working creative, you kind of have to. You have to show people that you are doing the thing. But then also understand that there are some works of art, pieces of art that are solely just for you, that no one else ever has to see. And maybe that piece of art is what's going to heal those parts of you that need the love and the attention. I got a question here. Did you ever have fear with going live and sharing your art? I do my first live today and I'm in shambles. Oh, I'm so excited for you. First, let's celebrate that you're even going live. You don't have to, but you're deciding to. That is a true creative. I am nervous every time I go live. Sometimes I'm like, am I going to know what to say? Am I going to make sense? Is this going to resonate? Are people actually going to watch? I never know that, right? And I think that is also the same as excitement, the curiosity. So I would tell you, is that the fear is always there. I mean, anyone that goes Instagram live, they'd be lying if they said there wasn't some fear, regardless if they're an extrovert, regardless if they're a public speaker. I'm known as an extrovert. I'm known to talk a lot because I have a podcast. I've cultivated that skill set over the last 15 months, right? I didn't always speak so eloquently and clearly and succinctly. It took practice. And so the more you go live, you're going to get more clear on your energy. You're going to get more clear on how you want to talk, how you want to share yourself. But you got to let go of caring about what other people think. And I'm saying that to you while also saying that to myself, because I still care about what other people think, right? There's still that pressure, especially if you've been an artist for a long time. There's that pressure to always elevate in your creativity. And sometimes that pressure to elevate in my creativity stops me from posting. And so if that's you, let's say F it, and just create. So good examples. Last week, I was in the studio by myself for the first time in this pandemic, creating for me. And you know what? I didn't create a ton, but what I did was get to know my body again, get to know the music again, get to know how I want to move. Being alone in the creative process is very intimate. It's like a mirror is being held up of all your insecurities, especially as a dancer, right? In a studio where I'm looking at myself in the mirror. I'm looking at how my body's different. I'm looking at how I move differently. And so my demons, right? My own demons are comparing my current self to my previous self. Being like, dang, Lauren, you don't dance like you did 10 years ago. Well, I hope I don't dance the same as I did 10 years ago, right? So also understanding that if you are a different artist than you were 10 years ago, that's a good thing. If you were the same, we should be concerned about that. So I look at the parts of me that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that I have this body. I'm grateful that there's a studio that I can rent. I'm grateful for music. I'm very driven by the music that I choose. I'm grateful that I'm still dancing. Of course. No, I'm so glad you shared that, and I'm cheering you on. And it's going to be fun. People are going to hop on because you know what? Everyone that follows you on Instagram or Facebook, they want to support you. Are there people that maybe don't want to and want to see you fail? Yeah, because that's life. But just know that the people that care about you and are cheering you on will be there to support, right? This is support. Having you comment on my live, that's support. Having you hit that heart button, that's support. Knowing that people are listening, that's support. Yeah. Live, it gets easier. So I'm different. If I plan it, sometimes I'll plan stuff out. And then other moments like this, I'm just like, no, I'm going to just go on. Because if I don't go on now, I'm not going to go on ever. right? So finding that nice harmony of being in the moment and then like planning. I'm very much more of being in the moment, very much improv as I go. I'm not the type of person that can sit here and write an entire script for an Instagram live. I wouldn't want to, right? So I'm gonna just be myself and show up as myself and talk about the things that I'm going through. This is what I'm going through right now. I'm procrastinating like hell on like 2 projects right now. And maybe this is a form of procrastination for me, going live instead of doing the work, right? But what I do know is that going live, that this is going to have residual impact. So I know that when I go live, it's not just for me. When I go live, it's for my community. It's for you. It's for those of you that are on here. And so when I end this live, I'll probably go eat and then set up my space so I can sit down at my laptop and focus for a few hours before I go into the studio. But yeah, cheering you on. Good luck on your live. Share it with me so I can tune into it. I'm not sure what time it is, but I would love to support. Hey, Rondon. But yeah, if you tuned in a little late talking about fear and creativity, you can't have one without the other. It's going to be right there with you the whole time. But getting clear that creativity should be in the driving seat and fear can be in the passenger or in the back. But that fear is coming with us wherever we go. There's no way to leave it alone. Because if you're a human with a heartbeat, fear will always be present. Yeah, 7 p.m. EST. Yeah. Dope. I'm going to try and tune in. Y'all rock. Thank you so much for letting me share. I'm going to hop off because I am hungry. And I'm telling myself today will be a fruitful day. You know, changing our language. Sometimes I like to get away from the word productive because then that still feels so like capitalist, right? But fruitful, that's spiritual. That's church language. That feels good with my soul. I'm going to have a fruitful day. You're going to have a fruitful day. And you're going to love yourself even if you procrastinate. Okay? Because I am the queen of procrastinating. Sometimes it serves me well and sometimes it doesn't. But understanding that anxiety and excitement have the same physiological response. So you get to decide how you want it to manifest for you the rest of the day. Oh, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, if this fed your soul, share it with others. I'll be posting it to my timeline. And if I don't know you, my name's Lauren. I'm the creator and founder of The Lion's Den. We have weekly classes in person and online, dance and yoga. I'm a podcaster. Tune into my podcast, Thrive and Thread. Those links are in my bio. Thank you, Gino. So proud of you for putting yourself out there more. Just do it. Yeah, I'm also a coach. So if any of y'all are looking for one-on-one mentorship or coaching, hit me up. I have a few spots left this summer. But that is it, my friends. Have an amazing day. I'm going to go find something to eat and wishing us all a fruitful day.